Hi guys, welcome back. All right, so Scorpios, let's go ahead and jump on in. We're going to take a look at what things there might be to like wrap up, or whatever big ticket items are to maybe consider as we're closing out the end of this year. And then we'll also take a look at a North Node in Scorpio message. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. Somebody with a North Node in Scorpio is going to be different. You'd have to check your natal chart to see where your North Node is. Um, by the way, thanks guys for all your patience with me as I've been moving to a new location this week. I'm not fully, moved in. So if it sounds echoey, it's because I still haven't like unboxed stuff. But I'm super excited and super happy to be like back and have my space set up. So at least part of my space set up. All right. So big ticket items for the end of this year. We have Page of Swords. We have Five of Wands. And we have the Sun. So some things to either think about, contemplate, or wrap up before the end of the year. Says something that Scorpio has wanted to do for a while because it would make him really happy. And I almost think that this is like a plan. This is something that Scorpio's been researching, been dedicating themselves to learn about. And it almost seems like it's kind of exciting and it would make Scorpio really happy. There could be a strong Leo involved here as well. But I mean, we've got this cougar that's an animal of prey, predator. That I'm thinking that this is something that Scorpio has paid attention to for a long time, something that they care about. There's lots of stuff that we just love. When I was younger and painted a lot, I used to love to like go into art stores and just look at all of the art supplies and learn about the different charcoals and the different colored pencils and the different oil pastels and the different makers and what was just like different qualities. And you learn about supplies and you learn about things because you're interested in it, and there's just a certain amount of joy in researching things and learning about things that you care about. And I would say that would be something for Scorpio to dedicate a little bit of time to, as we're closing out this year. We have a Six of Pentacles as well. Six of Pentacles is oftentimes, a card of like equality. How much do I want to give to something and how much am I getting out of it? So evaluating if there's something that I've wanted to learn about, something that I've thought about, something that brings me joy, it almost kind of seems like maybe this is part of Scorpio's life path. Maybe this is their next huge area of interest. Maybe they're going to become like a very, sometimes the biggest contributions that people have added into the world have just been laymen that have an interest, and an interest that is a hobby. A hobby becomes something that is so profound that they become an expert in that, and an entire field is born. I mean, how do you think we ended up with the first, scientists and the first, doctors? It's like they were unskilled initially, but were observers and, took meticulous notes and documented things and learned things. And that's how Van Leeuwenhoek developed the first microscope. He was a linen merchant, and he had this real desire to make sure that the thread count was correct, and he didn't trust anybody, so he started making his own like magnifying glasses. He was very secretive about how he made his lenses, and it was intended just to be able to see the thread count in materials. But then eventually he started to look at everything, and he would document and draw little pictures and describe, like the plaque off of his teeth and what he saw in water. And he like described amoeba and things like that. But, this is just at one point in time, there weren't microscopes and there weren't scientists, but a layman becomes that because of his interest. And to bore anybody with that, if you couldn't care less about that, I always thought it was really cool. But he described little animalcules, which I always thought was adorable. But in any case, that to me makes me think that Scorpio could have an idea of something that's purely an interest, that they want to research, they want to pay attention to. And maybe if they let themselves invest a little of their mind or invest a little bit of their effort just because they like it, who knows what they could contribute to the world? Who knows what they may, sometimes people stumble upon a patent, or they stumble upon a great recipe and it goes viral, and it's all just because they liked tinkering around in the kitchen or tinkering around in their garage. 10 of Pentacles, dude, this could be money. This could turn into something very valuable. Now, sure, this could be nothing to do with money. This could be about relationship. But I kind of like the fact that we don't have anything that suggests love here. We suggest happiness and something that is purely of interest to our Scorpio. So love might not be at the top of the list. Maybe Scorpio's got a nice, happy love life. So maybe for the end of the year, this is more like Scorpio needs to do some things that make them happy for themselves outside of the realm of love. Like I said, explore something, learn about something, dedicate themselves to a hobby. But that in turn could form huge abundance. Both of these last two cards speak of perhaps building a business, creating something that generates income and wealth and abundance. So, not all messages are going to be about love, which I like it when we get different things. We have the Hanged Man sideways. I keep thinking this has been something that Scorpio has either kept under their hat for a long time, a great idea that they didn't, bring to fruition. And I would say keep it to themselves until they've got the patent, or keep it to themselves. And we live in the world of AI, which is just total rampant theft of, all of our copyrighted, every artist is being plagiarized. I'm sorry, I'm super against the whole AI thing. So, because I see how it's being misused and how much is at stake for every artist and every intellectual out there, being rampantly plagiarized, and ideas stolen, and those things. Make sure that Scorpio holds on to what's theirs and puts their name on it first, so that they can claim it as their own, as they should rightfully be able to. Because this says, this is a possum. This is playing possum. I'm not going to bring it out and show it to the world unless I'm sure that I can, if I've thought about all the ramifications and if I've thought about how to present it and how to hold on to it, since it's Scorpio's idea. So I hope Scorpio takes good care of their amazing ideas. We've got 8 of Wands upright. That 8 of Wands, again, is fast moving. It's opportunities, it's building opportunities, it's pursuing things that Scorpio wants to pursue in their life, but doing it when the time is right. Work on things quietly, build stuff quietly, and then when the time is right, you notice we've got the owl striking. And it's so interesting because we have the serpent here as well, or excuse me, the hawk striking. It keeps saying that by the end of the year, I think that we're going to have a Scorpio who's got this well fleshed out plan. They've already done some trial and error. They're building something that's important. And then maybe they're ready to bring it into a business formula or something. CJH, thank you, Angel. You're so generous. Thank you, babe. Thank you for that. So sweet. This feels amazing for our Scorpio. It feels like they're brilliant. It feels like they have a labor of love. They are creating something, and at the right moment, they will reveal it to the world. But it'll be where it's their idea, all fleshed out. I love this for Scorpio. I love that they're building something. Queen of Wands, they're going to be real proud of themselves too. Heck, this could be a new dance move. Remember, when Michael Jackson, displayed the moonwalk, and it just the world just stopped, because it was such an amazing move. And, we'll always know him as the one who did the moonwalk. It could be something like that, but I feel like this is going to put Scorpio's name on the map, or it's going to make Scorpio just really feel proud of themselves with something that they have created. But I feel like this is maybe part of their life path, their life purpose. It's a talent. It's something that they can bring. Maybe it's a piece of music, an original piece. Definitely, keep your music safe too as an artist, because that's being stolen as well. But it just comes across like we've got an amazing artist or an amazing intellect out there for the Scorpio who can really bring that to the forefront. It's really exciting to see Scorpio going to do really well on something. And 3 of Pentacles, and it's once it's theirs, it has their fingerprint on it, then now they can go into business with others. Now they can collaborate with others. Now they can bring it to everyone else's attention and really make it successful on a bigger platform. But I just love the fact that this is so uniquely owned by Scorpio. That's beautiful. All right, I want to go ahead and shift over and look at a North Node message for Scorpio. So now, there's different ways to look at North and South nodes. Please bear in mind, I am not an astrologer, some astrologers don't believe that North and South nodes are of importance at all. They're lunar points on the moon, right? Now, Sweet brought something up earlier in one of the other videos, which is just I know of two different ways to look at North and South nodes, and I prefer one over the other, but I'm going to explain the first one. So the North and South nodes can be considered the head and the tail of the dragon, which can be looked at as negative attributes that an individual has, and that should be shed. And then that would be the South node. And then the North node would be the positive attributes that they should strive for. But the interpretation that I actually prefer, and the one that kind of resonates more with me, so this is the way I describe North and South nodes, is that the South node is what we already come into this world knowing. It's the place we're comfortable with because of past life incarnations and the lessons that we learned and the skill sets that we got, comfortable with, and things that we picked up, good, bad, or ugly. But it's also the competencies and the inherent gifts that we possess. So it's where our comfort zone is. But the North node placement is what we should strive to step out of our comfort zone for and evolve into within this lifetime, so that we're always moving upward. And I like that interpretation better because it's a little bit less about bad and good, and a little bit more about what we know versus what we could continue to expand upon if we're going to put together the idea of do we keep going into lifetime after lifetime of experiences that we can use as building blocks. So one of the things with a North node in Scorpio is that it can indicate somebody that is becoming more fearless, somebody that is possibly becoming more of a healer, somebody that is becoming more willing to transform and really look at the next layer of themselves. But they assist others in their transformation as well, which I thought was kind of cool. So for someone who has a North node in Scorpio, the message for the end of the year, or kind of leaning toward the wrap up, is the Tower. That Tower energy is embracing a total cleanse, freeing one's mind to look at a broader, bigger picture. We have the Fool. There's taking this huge leap of faith after a sense of liberation from a previously held limiting belief. And we have Nine of Wands. So wrapping up the end of this year by freeing oneself and leaning into the future, leaning into doing things differently, starting fresh, taking the adventure, go and trailblaze, and then acknowledge that, hey, everything that we've been through in life does leave its mark, but then it leaves maybe a little dent, maybe a little chip here and there, but we're still very functional. And there's just this huge embrace, perhaps, of allowing a chapter of life to allowing ourselves, I'll say, to let go of a chapter of life and everything we have known, and allowing ourselves permission to reinvent ourselves, knowing full well that to reinvent ourselves doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect and bear no scars of our past, but rather saying, yes, I will carry scars, but I will also give myself permission to move beyond what I have known. It feels like a character so it's a very different message for a Scorpio North node. This is less about building something and more about starting life over again and allowing oneself permission to do that. I would almost add in forgiveness, self-forgiveness in here as well, and saying, hey, maybe I've made some fumbles, but you know what? I'm still here, and I'm going to let myself, change my name, start to do things different. I can't help but look at this it looks like bars. So maybe this Scorpio got themselves into a bit of trouble, had to pay a debt to society. And it's I made some mistakes. Yep, I did. But that doesn't define who I will ever be. I have a right to start over and, do things differently. it doesn't change what I did in the past, but I also don't live in my past. I live in my present and I lean toward my future. So it's really nice to see somebody giving themselves permission to say, we all have stuff that we're ashamed of. We all have stuff that we do wrong. We all make mistakes and fumble, but we got to also be able to forgive ourselves to a certain extent so we can move forward, because that's especially what the north node and south nodes are to me. It's like, what are we here to do? We're here to keep growing, and we're not always going to get it right, and we're going to fumble, but we're going to keep growing. So I loved this one. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Yael, you angel, thank you. And thank you again, CJH. That was so generous of you. Thank you, babe. Bella B, hi, honey. Nice to see you. I love that, Chrissy. Hi, Kins. Thank you guys so much. All right, I'm going to bounce over and do Cancer, but I realized I totally forgot about Pisces. So we're going to bounce over and do Cancer on Tarot Dog, but then I will come back here and we're going to still get to Pisces tonight. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to forget Pisces for a moment, but I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.